Yo. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Big news. Fucking Tim Sweeney did it. Kind of. Essentially, no, more so Apple fucked up and they did it in a very big way. And now they have a public they have a PR disaster to deal with. So we're going to cover that. Mainly, really, we're going to focus on that story a lot, and then we're just going to do some earnings. We got Microsoft had earnings that were good. Meta had earnings. Robinhood, Roblox, we're going to look at those four. We'll look at Qualcomm if we have time, and some others. And then potentially Sam Altman's World Coin, where he wants to fucking scan your eyeball. He wants to eye scan people. Yeah, we're just gonna jump right into the Tim Sweeney. So I was actually reading the court document here because there's a few call outs, but let's look at a little summary here. Epic back in, when was it? Fortnite Apple commercial. We're gonna watch this. Whoops. What I click on? 4 years ago now. Tim Sweeney, Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney, legendary programmer Tim Sweeney, antitrust champion Tim Sweeney, getting fellow big tech hater Tim Sweeney. Apple has a walled garden in the App Store. They charge you 30. They take up to 30% fees when someone buys your app in the App Store, and they take those same fees when you want to make a purchase, an in-app purchase. Epic Games, Tim Sweeney said that was illegal, and there's been plenty of talk about, outside of the courts about how Apple, like what Apple has is a monopoly. Tim Sweeney sued Apple after defying their rules by putting in a workaround to Apple's payments in their app, which breaks Apple's policies. And in turn released this video, and Apple subsequently banned the app from the App Store because they broke their policies. And Tim Sweeney knew that exactly what would happen, and they had lawyers on standby ready to come and file their lawsuit saying that Apple had an illegal monopoly. The court didn't rule necessarily fully in Epic's favor. They did say that Apple can't block a link to a third-party payment that goes like around Apple's payment software, so that Apple cannot take the 30%. Tim Sweeney actually took that case to see if the Supreme Court would hear it. They did not, and so while it was ruled that Apple didn't have like a monopoly, the judge was like, this shouldn't be a case to like reference, and that like this is kind of just like, we gave like this kind of more narrow ruling that it was kind of like, Apple didn't have a monopoly, but also Epic Games' arguments like weren't the best, so we're gonna do this like in between, which was, yeah, Apple can't block a link to going to a third party payment, so going around their software. But Apple took that and did the typical malicious compliance type of bullshit that you probably would have expected. And they said that they're now charging a 27% fee to go around their 30% fee. So it's like, bro, there's still like that defeats the whole entire purpose. And that is where Tim Sweeney and Epic Games has won now, which we will look into and see. It's pretty much someone might be going to jail, I guess. Like, that's how bad this is, because they defied court orders, and the judge was pissed. So let's watch this. This is kind of what kicked it off 4 years ago, and then we'll read about it. Also, I guess more context. Epic also sued Google over their App Store practices, and they actually got much further, and like they kind of won more so in Google, and so Google has to do a lot of things. They have to make some changes too, and a lot of this is also stems from the DMA, Digital Marketplace Act in the EU. Epic is the one who's essentially kicked that off because they sued them in Europe too. So, and Tim Sweeney has said that he's pretty much like, I have billions of dollars and I'm willing to use that to fight big tech. Like, he's literally like essentially said that exact, like, I'm willing to like lose my money to like open up these platforms. So, it's, if nothing else, you got to give it to him for being very principled and willing to lose his fortune or like potentially not lose it, I guess, or lose it and win. I don't know. He's willing to put all on the line to hold up to his principles. So respect. Okay, let's watch this real quick. This is what kicked it off, which is like, I'm pretty sure this is based off of an Apple commercial, if I'm being honest, or like it's based off of something. I don't know. Hang on, I'll be right back. Well, it's 1984, I know, but like it's something else. Epic Games have defied the App Store monopoly. In retaliation, Apple's blocking Fortnite from 1 billion devices. Join the fight to stop 2020 from becoming 1984. Yeah, so this kicked it off. And now let's bring us to back to modern day. So no fees on web transactions. Now, that might not seem like a big deal. It's only web transactions, but essentially now you could link to the web to get payment and then go back to the app. So Apple's 15 to 30% junk fees are now just as dead here in the United States of America as they are in Europe under the Digital Markets Act. Unlawful here, unlawful there. 4 years, 4 months, 17 days. And he posted the screenshot from what we just saw. It says, Northern District of California Court has ruled on the Epic vs. Apple anti-steering injunction, contempt of court proceeding, details incoming. And that's what we just saw. But it says, for the reasons set forth herein, the courts find Apple in willful violation of this court's 2021 injunction, which issued to restrain and prohibit Apple's anti-competitive conduct and competitive pricing. Apple's continued attempts to interfere with competition will not be tolerated. And I really just like the snippets from this, like the judge is pissed. Like, that's why I'm like, bro, I wouldn't, like, someone might be going to jail. And if we continue reading here, it says, in stark contrast to Apple's initial in-court testimony. Actually, let's just read this entire, like, this is like the first half of it. Let's just read this, and then we'll look at commentary here. Okay. So United States Northern District of California. Order granting Epic Games motion to enforce injunction. Denying Apple's motion to set aside judgment. Denying Apple Inc.'s motion under Federal Rule of Evidence. Denying Apple Inc.'s motion for entry of judgment on its indemnification counterclaim with prejudice. Okay, I don't know. Lawyer speak. Okay. For the reasons set forth herein, the court finds Apple in willful violation of this court's 2021 injunction, which issued to restrain and prohibit Apple's anti-competitive conduct and anti-competitive pricing. Apple's continued attempts to interfere with competition will not be tolerated. It says, by way of background, after May 2021 trial between Epic Games and Apple, this court issued a 180-page order, which in part enjoined Apple's conduct impeding competition with respect to in-app and out-of-app purchases. So Apple stifled competition in terms of in-app and out-of-app purchases. On April 24th, 2023, day after my birthday, in a 91-page order, the Ninth Circuit affirmed on January 16th, 2024, the Supreme Court declined to review. The next day, the injunction was issued. So this is what I was talking about, where Sweeney wanted then the Supreme Court to take a look, because it didn't necessarily rule fully in Epic's favor. And Epic wanted, the full 30% gone, I guess, pretty much. But yeah, they didn't see it, which I'm not surprised they didn't, I guess. So then it says Apple's response to the injunction strains credulity. What the fuck is this word, bro? I fucking hate lawyer speak. A weak or ignorant disregard of the nature or strength of evidence upon which a belief was found. So essentially, Apple dismissed the court's ruling, thinking almost like it was less than, they were above it. That's what I'm taking this as. Where Apple thought the evidence was not good enough, and so it's alright, I'll just ignore it. After 2 sets of evidentiary hearings, the truth emerged. And this is crazy because this is the judge or the team or the court's writing this. This isn't Epic or Tim Sweeney or even Apple. Apple, despite knowing its obligations thereunder, thwarted the injunction's goals and continued its anti-competitive conduct solely to maintain its revenue stream. This is the courts literally saying that they put profits over the court's injunction. Remarkably, Apple believed that this court would not see through its obvious cover-up. It's the court is calling out Apple, saying that, did you think we wouldn't notice? The 2024 evidentiary hearing, to unveil Apple's actual decision-making process, not the one tailor-made for litigation. The court ordered production of real-time documents and ultimately held a second set of hearings in 2025. Because I think what happened was, Epic was let's enforce the injunction. So I think that's what the evidentiary hearings do. I'm no lawyer, so I'm just trying to deduce or whatever. And so then they had these hearings, and then Apple ultimately had to produce evidence regarding, some sort of case, which is probably what the communications that came forward to kind of prove that they were not following the injunction, and which likely came from the hearing, these evidentiary hearings. So, and then here we got the summary, and then there's a few other call outs that I want to try and find that clips that are crazy. So, whoops, I'm lost. Okay, here we go. So to summarize, 1, after trial, the court found that Apple's 30% commission allowed it to reap supra-competitive operating margins and was not tied to the value of its intellectual property and thus was anti-competitive. So, I'm taking that as Apple charged 30%, but they were not able to justify the 30% commission based off of the value that they provide. And what Apple's argument is we protect you from malware and viruses or whatever, and it costs a lot to run the platform or whatever. But developers have to pay a subscription. They have to pay $100 a year, which to launch their app. To me, that seems like that would cover their costs. And then another 30%, especially on transactions after the initial like app, like buying the app or whatever. Like, okay, sure. Like if I could see like if Apple buys it, if you buy an app directly from the App Store, but then the like after the subscriptions, like that's crazy. Anyways, okay. Apple's response: charge a 27% commission, again tied to nothing, on off-app purchases, where it had previously charged nothing, and extend the commission for a period of 7 days after the consumer linked out of the app. So now, after the court was like, you have to allow like, you know, people to go around, like web transactions to go around your Apple's 30%. Then Apple started charging a 27% commission, which they said, the court said, tied to nothing on off app purchases. Were previously charged nothing. Like literally, it's like all of a sudden they're like, oh, we need 27% now. It's like, oh, well, that was like, you could, like, it wasn't exist before, but now all of a sudden, since people can now go around it, you need to charge the 27%. Like, to me, that's like one of the most telling things, because clearly they don't need it because they didn't have it before, and so all of a sudden they just invented it. Like, what? Like, I guess it's hard to justify that now. Like, what? Like, where does that come from? And it extends for 7 days after the consumer clicked the link. So, like, let's say you click you want to buy V-Bucks in Fortnite, so you click the link. It takes you to the Fortnite website, but you're like, actually, I don't want to pay. I don't want to buy that right now. And then maybe like a few days later, you like go, but you like open up the web browser and you're like, okay, let's actually buy some V-Bucks for Fortnite on my phone, but via the web browser. Apple still could take 27% because they extend they said that it could go 7 days after the consumer clicked and linked out of the app. Like, that's insane. That's crazy. Apple, and so here you're continuing what the court says. Apple's goal: maintain its anti-competitive revenue stream. The court is literally saying that is what Apple was doing. Okay, so now it's the second point the court's making. The court had prohibited Apple from denying developers the ability to communicate with and direct consumers to other purchasing mechanisms. Apple cannot interfere when someone wants to link to a non-Apple payment source, i.e., go to the web browser to buy V-Bucks. Apple cannot block that. The court prohibited Apple from doing that. Apple's response: impose new barriers, new requirements to increase friction and increase breakage rates with full-page scare screens, static URLs, and generic statements. Like, I really hope people like see what's going on, because this happens at every big tech company. Like, they are designing things in a way to be anti-competitive, to, you know, psychologically change your opinion on things like scare screens. And we'll get into that later, because it like behind the scenes, Apple openly admitted to doing things like this to dissuade people from going to that source. They openly admitted that. Apple's goal: to dissuade customers' usage of alternative purchase opportunities and maintain its anti-competitive revenue stream. In the end, Apple sought to maintain a revenue stream worth billions in direct defiance of this court's injunction. Like, in stark contrast to Apple's initial in-court testimony, contemporaneous business documents revealed that Apple knew exactly what it was doing and at every turn chose the most anti-competitive option. To hide the truth, Vice President of Finance Alex Roman outright lied under oath. Bro, like, imagine this fucking guy following orders just like a soldier. And then, like, you go up, you lie. Maybe he, like, I mean, we'll see. He lied. And now you're gonna go to fucking jail. You could go to jail. Like, bro. Internally, Philip Schiller had advocated that Apple comply with the injunction, but Tim Cook, CEO of the most powerful, the largest company in the world by market cap, Tim Cook ignored Schiller and instead followed Chief Financial Officer Luca Maestri and his finance team to convince him otherwise. Cook chose poorly. This is the court saying Cook chose poorly. The real evidence detained herein more than meets the clear convincing standard to find a violation. The court defers the matter to the United States Attorney for the Northern District of California to investigate whether criminal contempt proceedings are appropriate. The judge is recommending that the district attorney look into criminal charges. I want to know what Tim Cook thinks. This is an injunction, not a negotiation. There are no do-overs once a party willfully disregards a court order. It's not like, oh, sorry, I'll do it now. It's like, no, we already told you what to do. It's like, it's too late, bro. Time is of the essence. The court will not tolerate further delays. As previously ordered, Apple will not impede competition. The court enjoins Apple from implementing its new anti-competitive acts to avoid compliance with the injunction. Effective immediately, and this was released yesterday, 4/30/2025. Effective immediately, Apple will no longer impede developers' ability to communicate with users, nor will they levy or impose a new commission on off-app purchases. Like, holy shit. Okay, so now let's I would just read this whole thing, honestly, but it's gonna get boring. Let's read. All right, so the court held the there's a few call outs. I should have done more prep, but I just didn't have time this morning. All right, let's find. Here we go. Evidentiary hearings. This is what we want here. They ordered Apple to provide all injunction compliance related documents. Apple engaged in tactics to delay the proceeding. The court later concluded that delay equaled profits. By September 30, 2024, Apple represented it had produced around 89,000 documents out of the 1.5 million it had reviewed and expected to produce a few thousand more by October 7, 2024. Apple, however, asserted privilege over more than a third of response documents. The privilege, I think, is like... It's like it's secret or something. Magistrate Judge Hickson largely found Apple's privilege claims to be unsubstantiated after reviewing 11 exemplar documents characterized by Epic as evidence of Apple's overreach. Apple used this decision to delay further and offered to re-review all 57,000 documents for which it... Bro, like, this is crazy. An offer to like, oh, well, we could go back and review all the 57,000 documents. It just might take us another 6 months to a year. Ultimately, Apple withdrew approximately 42.1% of its privilege claims, although Apple now tries to recast this re-review as of its own accord. That framing belies the reality of the documents and should never be withheld in the first instance. Yeah. Ultimately, Epic and Apple hired 3 special masters to review Apple's privilege claims after its review. Okay, let's just keep going. Okay, here we go. During the 3 days of testimony, Apple's 2025, Epic called back to the stand Philip Schiller and Carson Oliver and called for the first time Raphael Onik, user experience writing manager at Apple. Dude, imagine just being some fucking UX dude who just like, he's like, I'm just a writer. Like, I just write copy, you know? Like, I just like this, and being called in this fucking, like, hearing. But I think the problem is, though, this dude's probably in charge of the fucking scare screens that came up, you know? Then he called the manager of finance at Apple Services, corporate communications director, evidentiary hearing. Okay. Oh, so the that just ended in February. That's crazy. Says Apple chose to comply with the injunction with the following 5 category of changes. Apple imposed a 27% commission on link out purchases, new external purchase link placement and design restrictions, requiring that induce purchase flow friction. Requirements that induce purchase flow friction, okay. Limitation on developers' ability to use calls to action, and exclusion for certain programs utilized by large developers from the link entitlement. The court evaluates each in terms of whether Apple took reasonable steps to comply. All right. Yes. Okay. Oh, so this is A. Oh, I see. This is A. This is all of them. I see. Okay. Okay, this is exactly what I want. So they now have some internal communication about the discussion to add about like what to do to essentially add these features to make it anti-competitive. Let's see. I wonder if Tim Cook is going to be criminally liable, because theoretically Tim Cook did pick someone's opinion over the previous who was wrong. Someone who he picked an opinion to directly go against the court, I guess. Let's. Okay. Is this where we? Dang it! It's so long, but I don't think this is gonna be interesting content. Okay, let's just look at some other commentary, and we might come back to this after. So, let's get some more commentary. So, here's a Mark Gurman. He covers like Apple a lot. So, judge tells Apple to stop charging commission on purchases made outside of App Store. He says the company's VP of Finance lied under oath. She says Phil Schiller didn't want to take a % on out-of-store purchases, but was overruled by CEO CFO. Just look at Tim Sweeney, and then we'll look at DHH, David Heinemann he's like legendary. He created Ruby on Rails. He's just a legendary programmer. Okay, so yes, they announced their they announced the changes. So we'll look at that after. Yeah, let's just look at this. So Apple was asked by the judge to give up almost nothing in the first round of this lawsuit. They refused. Now they have to give up everything. Epic win by Tim Sweeney and Mark Ryan. Who's this guy? Oh, he's vice president. Okay, interesting. I'll follow him. Justice prevails in the end. Incredible day for developers everywhere. Yeah, so permanently restrains and enjoins. So this is what Apple has to do now. Apple is afforded the ample opportunity to respond to the injunction. It chose to defy this court order and manufacture post hoc justifications for maintaining its anti-competitive revenue. Apple's actions to misconstrue the injunction continues to impede competition. This court will not play whack-a-mole, nor will it tolerate further delay. Accordingly, for the reasons set forth herein, in good cause appear in court, permanently restrains and enjoins Apple Inc. and offering agent service employees to any person in active concert participation with them from. So this is what Apple cannot do now. Impose any commission or fee on purchases that consumers make outside an app, and as a consequence, no reason exists to audit, monitor, or track or require developers to report purchases or any other activity that consumers make outside the app. Like, that is crazy. Like, imagine you go to a store, imagine you go to Whole Foods and you sell something at Whole Foods. Now, you also want to sell something at a farmer's market where you get 100% of the commission. That would be like Whole Foods being like, nuh-uh. You can't sell that. You can't sell at that farmer's market. Okay, if you want to, then we need 30%. It's like, dude, you stay back, bro. It's a little different, I think, because it's more so a platform. It'd probably be like it would be probably more like a big, like, imagine you have like a warehouse and you pay rent. Everyone has a little spot inside a warehouse. Someone wants to buy something from your little stall, and the warehouse is free to use, but they take a 30% fee when you buy something. But then, someone's like, maybe someone comes to you and be like, hey man, if you give me cash, I get 100% and they don't collect 30% fee. Is that like, would that be okay? And it's like, yeah, sure, I got cash. It's like, okay, sweet. And they'll be like, I'll even give you a discount, because that is what it is. Like, a lot of times they charge more on the App Store because of the 30%. And so now they're like, hey, we'll charge 0% if you give, if you go around this, I'll give you a discount. That's being competitive. And Apple can't offer that because they're just a platform. They just make the platform. Restricting, that was not the best example or uses, but you kind of get the point. Okay, so this is another thing. Restricting or conditioning developers' style, language, formatting, quantity, flow, or placement of links for purchase outside the app. Yes, because what's exactly going to happen is it's going to be save 20%. I don't even wait. So what's gonna happen starting tomorrow? I'm like, Epic Games is gonna be like, save 20%, get 20% more V-Bucks if you use this link. That's what's gonna happen. It's gonna be like, get more for your buck if you click this. Now, convenience is a big thing. So like that, I don't know. We'll actually see, but still. Or better yet, only have the link out button on the paywall. Apple specifically cannot limit anything about the buttons. Yeah, I guess like you don't even have to give the options to buy it in store now. You can just remove it completely and make the only option to buy through the web. Prohibit or limiting the use of buttons or other calls to actions to otherwise condition the content, style, language, formatting, or flow of placement of these devices for purchasing outside of the app. Yes, no scare screens. It's like, you want to go, you gotta let it. You can't warn them to make them be like, oh, like, it's gonna be dangerous. It's like, no. They know what they're doing. Excluding certain categories of apps and developers from obtaining link access. Interfering with consumers' choice to proceed in or out of the app. That's more so the scare screen. By using anything other than neutral message, apprising users that they are going to a third-party site. And restricting a developer's use of dynamic links that bring consumer to a specific product page in a logged-in state. Oh, rather than a statically defined page. I see. That's when you're talking about static pages, because you could kind of like transfer like the cookie or the session with the link when you click on it, kind of like a magic link, like login. You could kind of do that. Including restricting apps from passing on product details, user details, or other information that refers to the user intending to make a purchase. These restrictions on the specific actions Apple took to violate this court's injunction, and they require no affirmative action on court injunction's part. Is effective immediately. Will not entertain request for a stay given the repeated delays for severity of conduct. That's crazy. Yep. All right. I want to find this one call out before we continue, because here we go. This is kind of, okay, here we go. This is what I was wanting to see. The scare screen. Yeah, in other words, it says Apple okay, man, this whole thing is just like juice. As discussed above, June 2023 presentation informed Apple executives that we know it's very likely that when a link out happens, there will be some breakage, meaning the customer drops off during the buy flow process due to a less seamless experience compared to Apple's IAP. It's like, maybe it's like in-app purchases. Yeah. Apple understood and used to a disadvantage. The more the friction is in a purchase flow, the more breakage a developer faces. Apple found that beyond breakage, I don't know, I wonder what this is bleeped out. Beyond breakage, developers reach a tipping point where they lose more on linking out than they would sticking with the Apple in-app purchases, and the higher commission. Oh, I actually read this on stream. Holy shit! We actually did take a look at this on in stream. I do remember this now. Holy shit. I remember reading this. In other words, to stifle competition, Apple was modeling the tipping point where external links would cease to be advantageous for developers due to friction and purchase flow. Two aspects of Apple's link entitlement in particular increased purchase flow friction for users attempting to conduct an external purchase outside of Apple's in-app purchases, deploying a scare screen and requiring static URLs. Apple does not require developers selling physical goods to display any warning at all before users proceed to make a payment with third-party payment solutions. By contrast, Apple now requires developers selling digital goods to display an in-app system disclosure sheet where users linked out to a third-party solution. Yeah, bro, like, this is so crazy. Because, yeah, like, this alone, it's like, any account or purchase made outside this app will be managed by the developer. And it's like, you know, it's probably like Epic Games LLC or something. Your App Store account, store payment method related. Yeah, it's like, bro. 2 months after the injunction was issued, Apple began evaluating options for its warning screens. In an appendix to a draft November 15, 2021 Apple presentation, Apple details 3 different warning options involving escalating levels of warning messages, presumably as exemplars to show customers as part of the link out flow under consideration. So this is them. So, oh, I see. So the screen on the left is called a link, where the user would simply be taken directly to the external site. The middle screen is called a dialog, which generates a small pop-up after a user clicks on an external link that communicates with the user are leaving the app. The screen on the right is called a sheet, which is a full screen takeover after the user clicks on an external link. Moving left to right, the warning level of the user increases. Like, this is the only thing that should be okay. Like, open in your default app, it's like, you'll leave the app and go to the developer's website. Like, that is very neutral. I think that's fine. Even this, yeah, like, this is fine, but, like, even this is definitely designed for them. Again, Apple chose the most anti-competitive option, namely the full screen takeover. And okay, here we go. This is where it's insane that you would even talk about this just in general, but in text, so that knowing that you have, like, it's like there's lawsuits and court shit going on. In Slack communication dated November 16th, 2021, the Apple employees crafting the warning screen for Project Michigan, which Project Michigan is this, like what's going on, I'm pretty sure. Or just like the out of link purchases. The warning screen for Project Michigan discussed how to best frame its language. Mr. Onik suggested the warning screen should include the language, by continuing on the web, you will leave the app and be taken to an external website because external website sounds scary. So execs love it. Like, this is one, they're trying to please the executives, which is kind of like weird, but like I guess it's like pleasing your boss, like that's whatever. But also just how fucking corporate pilled the fucking executives are with like, oh, external website sounds like scary, so like the execs will love it. From Mr. Onik's perspective, of these execs on the project, Mr. Schiller was at the top. That's the one who Philip, who like advised to follow the injunction. One employee further wrote, to make your version even worse, you could add the developer name rather than the app name. To that, another responded, oh, keep going. Like, oh, keep going. Keep breaking the law. Oh, keep being anti-competitive. Like, guys, come on. Again, Apple decided on the most anti-competitive option. That is the even worse option, including the developer's name rather than the app. Primary and over. Oh, yeah. All of this was hidden from the court and not revealed in the May 2020 evidentiary hearings. They literally hid this from the court. Like, guys. It says, from 2021 to 2023, while this court injunction was stayed, Apple employees also work on warning screens for similar compliance requirements imposed in other jurisdictions, including the Netherlands and Japan. In a January 2022 email, Mr. Schiller was asked for feedback on in-app messaging link out. And he responded, this is not good. This is a big warning that the user is about to be sent out of the app to a website. I do not think the headline should say continue. This is a warning that the user is about to go out to the web, and they are sure they want to do that. We cannot verify that anything that occurs on the web is private and secure. The default button should not be continue. In response, an employee confirmed, we updated the title and copy to be super clear on what is about to happen and not about to happen and have more of that warning tone. Is Schiller the CFO? On March 15, 2022, Apple held a meeting to discuss the warning screen for Netherlands and Japan response, which included Messrs. Schiller and Onik. Immediately afterwards, employees developing the warning screen language had a debrief over Slack to discuss how to implement Schiller's comments. They also discussed how to make the language scarier. One employee said some of the draft language feels safe, like, don't worry, you're still within the app, and it's just guiding you somewhere else right now. Rather, the language should sound like the users are sent into the great wide open. Mr. Onik commented, if we want to scare users a bit, I like the addition of out because it raises questions of hesitancy. Haha, out? Out where? OMG, what do I do? Oh my god, guys, like, they're literally making fun of the users. They're the... Bro, this is crazy. What the fuck? Mr. Onik testified that in terms of UX writing, the word scary doesn't mean the same thing as instilling fear. Rather, scary is a term of art. He testified this. A term of art that means raising awareness and caution in grabbing the user's attention. A term of art. Mr. Onik repeatedly asserted that the team's goal was simply to raise caution so the user would have all the facts so that they can make an informed decision on their own. That's crazy, bro. But like, he literally just said that he said the opposite though. Like, it's like they go up here, they go on there, and then they kind of lie and expect it is nothing to happen. Like, that's crazy. Mr. Onik's testimony was not credible and falls flat given the reason, common sense, and the totality of the admitted exhibits. The designers' discussions contextualize their use of the word scary to indicate its ordinary meaning and most applicable here, indicate the goal of deterring users as much as possible from completing a linked out transaction. Apple repeatedly acted to maintain its revenues and stifle competition. This is no exception. He attempts to reframe the obvious meaning of the communications do not persuade. All this was hidden from the court and not revealed in the May 2024 evidentiary hearing. The fact that they hid this from the court, like... At the meeting, okay, so it says, after the June 2023 meeting regarding this court's injunction, Apple decided that it would implement a full screen warning after users click on an external link, regardless of which commission option was ultimately selected. At the meeting, Mr. Cook asked the team to revise the customer warning screen to reference the fact that Apple's privacy and security standards do not apply to purchases made on the web. All right, this is coming from old Timmy, straight from the source. Head chef. Kidding. The team updated the warning screen, sent it to Mr. Schiller for approval, and returned the revised copy to Mr. Cook on June 23, 2023. The updated warning screen changed a sentence from "You will no longer be transacting with Apple" to "Apple is not responsible for the privacy and security of purchases made on the web." As Mr. Goldberg's notes reflect, the idea discussed was that this interstitial tells people it's dangerous that they are leaving the App Store. Yeah, and in the presentation above, this one is what reflected the changes. This one right here. It is crazy. Link entitlement, no. Beverage made purchases through the App Store in Fortnite for use on iOS devices sued Apple on behalf of themselves in a punitive class alleging that Apple's restrictions on app distribution increase the prices developers charge on iOS devices. That is... yeah, they're not wrong, but it's... Yeah, I don't know. And that Apple's anti-steering restrictions artificially increase Apple's power within the market for mobile gaming transactions. Plaintiffs asserted 3 causes of violation: Cartwright Act, the unlawful prong of the UCL, and the unfair prolonged... I don't know what this one is. Okay, let's continue this thread here. Jeez. Okay. Judge is also referring Apple and Finance VP Alex Roman to the U.S. Attorney for potential criminal prosecution due to their contempt of court. Incredible fumble by Apple, so hell-bent on screwing over devs that they were willing to risk a criminal case rather than budging an inch. Apple willfully chose not to comply with this court's injunction. It did so with the express intent to create a new anti-competitive barriers, which would, by design and in effect, maintain a valued revenue stream. A revenue stream previously found to be anti-competitive and non-existent. That it thought this court would tolerate such insubordination was gross miscalculation. As always, the cover-up made it worse. For this court, there's no second bite at the apple. Shit. The nonsense charge developers 30% commission on links to their own website and reserving the right to audit their books is key to this contempt of court ruling. It truly was outrageous, monopolistic overreach, amazing to see the judge call it as such. Several aspects of the link entitlement program taken together and to a certain extent independently violate the injunction. Court considers them in 2 groups, the commission rate and the design. See. Apple assessed the external cost developers face when utilizing linked out transactions, which generally ranged based on the size of the developer. The larger the developer, the better able to reduce the external cost of linked out transactions. With that information, Apple selected a 3% discount on its 30% in-app purchases commission that it knew was anti-competitive. In doing so, Apple willfully set a commission rate because they chose 3% because most payment processors charge around 3%. And so they gave you a 3% discount because you would essentially be breaking even if you were to link out, which would not make it competitive. That's, I think, what the ultimate thing, was anti-competitive too. In doing so, Apple willfully set a commission rate that in practice made all alternative in-app purchases economically non-viable. The court cannot conceive of how any reasonable mind interpreting this court's in the Ninth Circuit's order would find that structure permissible because it forecloses competitive alternatives. That appears to have been the point. Business documents reveal that the internal justification was to maintain the existing anti-competitive revenue stream. The bottom line, Tim Cook has to go. He's presided over criminal conduct at Apple in this case, exposed Apple to insane legal liability and incredible fury from developers, all to squeeze every last drop out of a toll booth that was already yielding plenty. He's unfit to lead Apple. That's crazy him saying this though. Cook could have had everything, the love of users, the love of developers, trillions in value to Apple, but he got blinded by the marginal dollar. Just a little more, then just everything from everyone. Apple's entitlement to the fruits of all apps proved poisonous. This is very true because it's really not that much linking out, and most developers will likely not change. I feel like it'll take time, but it's marginal. I don't know. Yeah, and I think they've had their own DHH. They run Basecamp. They run Once, which is a technology software company that you only have to buy. They charge one fee. It's not subscription fee software. And they also run Hey, which is like a email and calendar. And yeah, let's see. Apple just doubled down on the rejection of Hey's ability to provide bug fixes and new features unless we submit to their outrageous demand of 15-30% of revenue. Even worse, we're told that unless we comply, they'll remove the app. I think because it was like if you download, yeah, I think it was pretty much the same thing. I don't know actually. Yeah. Dang. Okay. Let's look at the Epic Game store changes. Yeah. Let's look at Epic store changes now. New Epic Games Store, web shops, and revenue share update. We're making some exciting updates on the Epic Games Store to provide an even better deal for developers, starting in June. 0% store fees for the first $1 million in revenue per app per year. Bro, they're just going after Apple. Starting in June 2025, for any Epic Games Store payments we process, developers will pay 0% revenue on shares on their first $1 million in revenue per app per year. And then our regular 88% 12 revenue share when they earn more than that. Epic Games Store web shops. In June 25, we are releasing a new feature enabling developers to launch their own web shops hosted by the Epic Games Store. Dude, they were ready for this. These web shops can offer players out of app purchases as a more cost-effective alternative to in-app purchases, where Apple, Google, and others charge exorbitant fees. With new legal rulings in place, the developers will be able to send players from games to make digital purchases from web shops on any platform that allows it, including iOS in the European Union and United States. As an extra bonus, players spending in Epic web shops will also accrue 5% Epic rewards on their purchases. Bro, this is the free market, baby. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, shit. This is Lena Khan here. It's starting to spread now. For years, Apple has charged exorbitant tax on Americans who use App Store while thwarting developers who want to offer lower cost options. Apple continued these tactics even after being ordered by Judge to stop. Yesterday's decision was a long-awaited win for innovators, consumers, and the rule of law. Congratulations to everyone who helped ensure fair competition would prevail. Epic Games Store will take 0% of the first $1 million of payments we process per game per year. 12% after that. Next month we launch EGS, Web Shops, Epic Games Store, Web Shops for app purchases as an alternative business. Sweet. Okay, let's see mainstream media's take. Let's look at Verge. Verge has pretty good anti-competitive or like big tech reporting. A judge blew up Apple's control of the App Store. The judge, Epic Games versus Apple judge Yvonne Gonzalez Rogers just ruled that effective immediately, Apple is no longer allowed to collect fees on purchases made outside apps and blocks the company from restricting how developers can point users to where they can make purchases outside of apps. Apple says it will appeal the order, obviously. But, like, this one is... Like, I think this appeal is going to get booted real quick. Like... The ruling was issued as part of Epic Games' ongoing legal dispute against Apple, and it's a major victory for Epic's arguments. Gonzalez Rogers also said that Apple willfully chose not to comply with their previous injunction from our original 2021 ruling. That Apple thought this court would tolerate such insubordination was a gross miscalculation, Gonzalez Rogers said. The judge also referred the case to the U.S. attorney to review it for possible criminal contempt proceedings. As part of the ruling, the judge says that Apple cannot impose any commission or app fee on purchases that consumers make outside the app, restrict developer style formatting and placement of links for purchase outside the app, block or limit the use of buttons or other calls to action, interfere with consumers' choice to leave an app with anything beyond a neutral message apprising users that they are going to a third-party site. Apple Senior Director of Corporate Communications Olivia Dalton sent the statement to Verge that reads, "We strongly disagree with the decision. We will comply with the court's order and we will appeal." I mean, bro, like, if you don't comply, like, someone's definitely going to jail, so... Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney says that following this ruling, the company will bring Fortnite back to the US App Store next week. Sweeney is also offering a peace proposal from Epic. If Apple extends the court's friction-free, Apple tax-free framework worldwide, will return Fortnite to the App Store worldwide and drop current and future litigations on the topic. I don't really, I mean, I don't know about this, though. It's like... In many cases, Apple takes a 30% cut of purchases made in its apps, and Gonzalez Rogers' 2021 ruling forced Apple to allow developers to point to alternative payment options. But Apple instituted a policy that demanded developers pay Apple a 27% commission on those purchases. Many companies, including Epic, were unhappy about it. In the end, Apple sought to maintain a revenue stream worth billions in direct defiance of this court's injunction. Gonzalez Rogers said, she notes that inside Apple, App Store chief Phil Schiller advocated for the company to comply with the injunction, but that CEO Tim Cook chose poorly by ignoring Schiller and letting CEO Luca Maestri convince him otherwise. Yeah, this is Spotify. And Spotify has been, we just, literally just perfect timing, like literally just yesterday, we kind of looked at, we looked at Spotify, Meta, and Match.com created a coalition to fight Apple and Epic. So, or to at least lobby against them. So Spotify is immediately going around this. Spotify will move to quickly submit an app update to Apple, enhancing the experience for consumers across the United States. Spokesperson Jean Morin tells The Verge following the day's major ruling in versus Apple. Bro, maybe this is actually just gonna fuck Apple over insane, because I bet you that you could get some sort of workflow, some sort of user flow to make it pretty seamless now that Apple removes all their fucking bullshit, They monetize kids willfully broke the terms of App Store. There's no way they're coming back. Yeah, both things can be true. I don't know. Sometimes it's like this person did not get, they commented on the wrong publication. Yep, this is huge. Here we go. Let's read this here now, because I want to know more about I want to hear opinions now on Tim Cook, because Tim Cook has kind of been in the background a bit, but he's very much like a businessman. I mean, he's a CEO. He's literally the CEO of the largest company in the world, but I guess he just doesn't have much personality. He's very robotic, by the numbers, that kind of businessman. It's dude, loosen up a bit. Especially in this case, I don't know. But Apple's had quite a few blunders lately. Apple Vision Pro, their AR VR headset, it did not do well, and they're still reeling from that. I guess it was more so it just didn't do well, I guess. I don't know. They probably didn't they lost money, but it just didn't do well. But now Siri and Apple AI, Apple Intelligence, all of those have been blunders, especially Apple Intelligence, because Apple's now competing with Google. Google's arguably one of their largest competitors, and Microsoft, and both of them are killing it. Microsoft mainly because of OpenAI, but Microsoft just launched a new fee model, which is I don't know. I don't see Apple doing any of that, I guess is the point. So Apple's competitors are running circles around them when it comes to AI, and if that's actually going to be a competitive advantage of the future, then Apple needs to get their shit going. They have the ChatGPT integration, but yeah, it's been rough for them. Okay, so when the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the court ruling in the Apple versus Epic Games case, I said the iPhone makers. So this is Ben Lovejoy. This is from their perspective. Okay. When U.S. Apple Supreme Court upheld the court ruling in the Apple over X case, I said that the iPhone maker's response was clearly made in bad faith and was effectively giving the middle finger to the judge in the case. The judge has now officially confirmed this view. She has not only directed that directly called out Apple for ignoring her ruling, but said that a senior Apple executive lied under oath and referred the matter for prosecution. I'm not a fan of using bold text for emphasis, but I really have to, on this occasion, to emphasize just how utterly insane and incredible this is. And I have the same perspective. This is kind of crazy. It's crazy. The judge declared that Apple's VP of Finance, Alex Roman, lied under oath in court of law. Apple knew this and did not comply with its legal obligation to correct the record. The matter has now been referred to the U.S. Attorney for Criminal Investigation. Roman could literally be sent to jail for this, with Apple also subject to criminal sanctions. Apple's earnings today, I think, or tomorrow, the insane history of this dispute. Epic Games flouted Apple's App Store by introducing its own in-app payment system, bypassing. We're going to speed read this because we kind of already covered this, but introducing its own in-app payment system by bypassing Apple's 30% commission. That was blatant breach of Apple's rules, and the company threw its games out of the App Store. So far, no big deal, as a simple civil dispute. The two companies went to court, and Apple mostly won. That also needs to be emphasized here because the company could have taken the win. The finding that the App Store is not a monopoly and gone home happy. Literally. And that's what I was saying earlier. It's like, it was kind of like Epic like only kind of won, but like Apple mostly won, you know? Because they weren't ruled outright like monopoly in like the 30% thing, but they still allow the, you know, of the going around the App Store. The only area where Apple lost is that Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers ruled that Epic or any other developer is allowed to make in-app sales without the iPhone maker taking a cut. Most developers weren't going to bother, so the financial loss to Apple would have been pretty small. Exactly. That was my opinion previously, but I don't know. I guess maybe with like a Spotify, not a lot of people are coming out and like saying that they're going to go around it, so it's like I don't even know anymore. But I still think that like most people don't, because it is a lot of work. You need like infrastructure in place, you know. So it's like most apps probably aren't. It's just like the large companies are likely, you know. But Apple chose to flout the entire intent of the judge's ruling and announced that it would continue to demand commission even on sales made outside the App Store. And they made the commission specifically 27%. Because most other outside payment processors charge 3%, and so you would literally be being charged the same amount. Crazy. This was clearly a ridiculous response. Epic went back to the court to accuse Apple of acting in bad faith, and the judge strongly implied she agreed and that Apple was lying about its motivation. She demanded that the iPhone maker hand over all its internal documents relating to the decision. When Apple claimed it had not been able to comply by the deadline, a second judge said he too thought the company was lying. And we saw that the judge said that Apple was deliberately stalling in handing over documents, and they also were overreaching in saying that they were like privileged so that they didn't have to give them over. That's two separate judges saying that one of the biggest companies in the world is probably lying. But now it's official, Apple lied under oath. Rogers, the judge in the original case, wanted time to study Apple's documents to find out whether or not the company lied. She's now returned with an 80-page order, which finds that, yes, Apple deliberately set out to subvert the clear intent of her ruling. Yes, Apple lied in an attempt to cover up the subversion of her ruling. Yeah, specifically, Alex Roman told multiple lies under oath. But I actually don't know if you read this. So, Apple employees... I need a drink, bro. Fucking so parched. Apple employees attempted to mislead the court by testifying that the decision to impose a commission was grounded in AG's report. The testimony of Mr. Roman, Vice President of Finance, was replete with misdirection and outright lies. Even went so far as to testify that Apple did not look at comparables to estimate the cost of alternative payment solutions that developers would need to procure to facilitate linked out purchases. We directly read that they did. They literally pulled documents. The court finds that Apple did consider the external cost developers face when utilizing alternative payment solutions for linked out transactions, which conveniently exceeded the 3% discount Apple ultimately decided to provide by safe margin. Apple did not rely on substantiated bottom-up analysis during its months-long assessment of whether to impose commission, seemingly justifying its decisions after the fact with the AG's report. Mr. Roman did not stop there, however. He also testified that up until January 16, 2024, Apple had no idea what fee it would impose on linked out purchases. Another lie under oath. Contemporaneous business documents revealed that, on the contrary, the main component of Apple's plan included a 27% commission were determined in July 2023. Like, yikes. Neither Apple nor its counsel corrected the now obvious lies. They did not seek to withdraw the testimony or to have it stricken, although Apple did request that the court strike other testimony. Thus, Apple will be held to have adopted the lies and misrepresentation to this court. So now, both a senior Apple exec and the company face a criminal investigation. This is, as I said earlier, utterly insane. Massively more so when you consider that this was one of the richest companies in the world, lying in vain to prevent a rather trivial loss of income. Like, Tim Cook, bro. You gotta chill. I said at the time, sure, what Epic Games did was dumb. It baited Apple, Apple responded, and Epic Games got hurt. FAFO? What does that even mean? First in, first out? But Apple is making the exact same mistake here. It's baiting lawmakers, lawmakers respond, and Apple will get hurt. Right, Epic Games somehow still came out on top, and Apple looks like the bad guy, you know? It was obvious to me that Apple was making a dumb decision, but I had no idea just how dumb. The judge herself cited the oft-quoted adage that it's always the cover-up that gets you. Apple willfully chose not to comply with the court's injunction that it thought this court would tolerate such insurrection was a gross miscalculation. As always, the cover-up made it worse. It's the cover-up that has turned this from a civil matter into a criminal one. Ah, bro, that's crazy. Today's Apple's chance to put things right. Really doesn't want investors to realize how much their service revenue is legally dubious rent seeking. We outlined yesterday 3 options now open to Apple. Fully comply with the ruling, try to negotiate a compromise, appeal. They said the judge was not negotiating. The only sane one of these 3 is the first. Anything else simply drags this out even further, with even further embarrassment to the company. We can guarantee that Apple will be asked about this in today's earnings call. Yes. This is the perfect opportunity for the company to admit its mistakes, apologize for them, announce that it will be fully complying with the judge's ruling, and try and finally put this mess behind them. That won't necessarily end things completely. Criminal prosecutions may yet follow, but it's the best shot the company has. I just wish I believe the company will do it. I think it's just going to be corporate speak, and they're just going to brush it off. They're going to say they'll comply, but we disagree, and that we're going to appeal, and then that's it. Like, I hope that the analysts who ask questions are specific in like asking what they are just more specific in their answers so that they can't weasel out of it. All right, let's move on. That was a lot. I might actually, should we read this Wall Street Journal one? I kind of want to read the Wall Street Journal one. Well, we won't read it. We've spent a lot of time on this. Okay, let's move on to earnings. And let's start the video. Because I've been talking a lot. So we're going to go, we got Microsoft, Meta, Roblox, Robinhood. We'll start from good to worst. At least based on today's stock price. Let's start with this video.
Like there's a lot to like in this.
This was after their earnings.
Given that, you know, I'm all like a perpetual pessimist, I'm going to start with the glass half empty scenario. Was there anything in here you didn't like?
You know, Romain, going across, I mean, you mentioned revenue and EPS both beat. They also beat on commercial cloud. They beat on intelligent cloud. Really, you look across the board, productivity and business, they beat. There really isn't any segment data here where I see a miss. Azer was at 33%. Street was looking for 31 to 32. The big number, Romain, is what you've already kind of alluded to, I believe. And I haven't had a chance to check it because I'm in the studio, but we need that guide for fourth quarter on Azer. And the consensus is 29%. Everyone's worried, right, because of what happened with GCP missing. And obviously we rolled now into
GCP, Google Cloud Platform.
Azer and AWS tomorrow is that we're starting to
Azer.
see some sort of slowdown in terms of data center spend rates. And so that's the key guide number, that fourth quarter Azer growth rate.
Well, that's what I'm curious about too, because I mean the numbers, at least for the quarter pass, held up. But then, like I said, with the warning from Supermicro last night, we just got Confluent earnings just a little while ago today. Also, all seeming to suggest that maybe there is softness in that space. Of course, Supermicro isn't Microsoft. Confluent isn't Microsoft. Can they weather this storm?
You know, Romain, Microsoft's in a very unique position because, as you know, they have grown their top line revenue growth 8 consecutive years plus 10%.
Dang.
They are the behemoth in the enterprise software space, right? Next to Oracle. Those are the two really big companies. So I think they're in a much better position than, let's say, other companies like the chip companies, NVIDIA, we're going to talk about a month from now, other stocks like, you know, PCs, smartphones, where you really get that heavy black cloud surrounding the tariffs, where really Microsoft, other than in data center, maybe component costs in terms of their servers, but, you know, and potential slowdown related to slowdown in GDP in terms of IT spending, but you know, they're not as subject to all the worries that we have in the tech space.
I do think the one worry is that a lot of these big tech companies are very intertwined with the just general economy still, and like all the like software that they provide the companies. And so I do think that just an overall slowdown could still affect Microsoft. Maybe I'm wrong.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Dan, I look at what's happening right now in after-hours trading. Microsoft higher after beating on almost every metric, Meta higher. And, of course, we had Alphabet, which was very encouraging. Tesla is a whole different story because it's kind of its own, it's got its own drivers, its own factors. What does this mean for the tech sector at large? And here I'm talking about infotech, but also communication services, which is what Meta is included in, regaining their leadership of the market. You have the NASDAQ 100 back at its April 2nd level. So it's erased all of the losses it's had since the Liberation Day announcements. And now that we're at an even level, can they regain their leadership that they had been showing up until the end of last year?
I think, Scarlett, you know, if we reverse back last week and looked at Google's numbers, they missed on GCP. Their numbers were good. Their ad revenue growth was up maybe 8 or 9%, a little bit below what they did the previous quarter. But we look at these numbers, these are blowout numbers. Meta and Microsoft both beat on just about every metric. And I think this kind of sets the tone, guys, because we're going to go in tomorrow, right? We're going to get Apple and Amazon, right? If they also can have really big beats, we can get some good momentum back into the tech space and hopefully get the tech stocks to rebound off of their lows. Because right now, if you look at the S&P Information Technology Benchmark, it's down about 16% off highs, and the S&P is only down 10% off highs that we had in February. So the tech has been held down. But if we can get some more momentum and some more positive reports, Scarlett, and keep that thing going, then we can ride into, you know, NVIDIA in a month, and hopefully we'll get some positive trading back and momentum back in these stocks.
And then when we talk about the impact of tariffs, the legacy from the April 2nd announcements, you have the Meta outlook,
It's
including,
huge.
yes, I know, the Meta outlook including the increase in expected cost of infrastructure hardware, of course, increase in cost for its AR, VR hardware as well. But everything else is a little bit more derivative, right? It affects sentiment and affects business spending, and we'll see how that plays out for the companies like Microsoft, for instance. Can we basically say that these companies are more resistant, less vulnerable to the tariff headlines, to the tariff whiplash than others?
You're right, Scholar, because, you know, you just mentioned component costs. They're talking about Azer with Microsoft, the cost of building the data server centers, and then you mentioned Meta in the same situation. And then you look at Meta, the only concern coming in for this was, would some of these very large Chinese companies cut back, right, on spending in terms of digital spend rates?
Well, I feel like just in general with any company that you would use a service, like software service from like Microsoft, who is gonna be hit by the tariffs hard, who would need to cut spending. I guess Microsoft is probably one of the last ones to cut because there's probably more critical infrastructure on there. But I guess maybe like ad revenue, like Xbox. Actually, we're gonna look at Xbox because fucking we might look at that later too. But yeah, anyways.
With the likes of, let's say, a Meta or a Google. But I think you make a good point. Now, tomorrow we're going to get two poster childs for tariff impact, right? Apple and Amazon, right? And we can go into detail on how they're being impacted, but they have much far greater impact than you would see out of Microsoft and Meta. And, you know, Scarlett, Romain, tomorrow we're going to hear a lot more about that, right? In terms of those tariffs. So right now they seem almost immune to a certain point, right?
Well, speaking of those tariffs, sorry, I have to interrupt you, Dan. We are getting some breaking news right now. We're now learning, based on Bloomberg reporting, that officials from the European Union are going to actually present some trade proposals to the United States sometime next week. Again, this is according to people familiar with the situation that our Bloomberg reporters have spoken to. We should point out we are seeing a spike in futures here on the back of that headline, so something to keep an eye on. And it gets to this idea, Dan, that while the market, of course, has been weighed down over the last few weeks by concerns about trade and tariffs, if for some reason the market thinks that that threat is removed or at least minimized to some extent here, is there, I guess, an extra boost to this stock? I'm talking on top of whatever own internal fundamental execution they're having that could sort of increase, we could see an increase in multiples as a result.
Well, you're right, man. I mean, let's face reality. If we came out with a headline that said, you know, tariffs removed off the table, these stocks go way, way up. You know, you talk about catalysts. I mean, you know, we've talked about Meta in terms of refining their AI, being able to target better for customers, for their clients and so forth. You look at Microsoft with things that they're doing in terms of ChatGPT and Azure. I mean, those catalysts are still in place. And you mentioned before I came on, in terms of Microsoft is still holding on to their capex guide, $80 billion for fiscal year 25. So they're going to continue to put more money in building this out. So
still putting up those 80 billion
AI is still
data center.
very resilient. If we could just get this black cloud off the roof, Scarlett and Romaine, these stocks would probably go back to where we were before this whole thing got started.
Interesting. Oh, we actually got a reporting on that, but okay. Let's look at Microsoft's earnings. Look at the slides because I like the slides. All right. See, you guys see it all good. All right, I do own Microsoft. I think I don't have to disclose that or something. It's it's doing good. We'll just say that, man. Year to date though, it's only up 2%, but like we're back. So look at this. This is what I like to see. Year over year. Like, it's crazy how consistent they've been growing, and this is like a good jump. It's crazy that they spent $30 billion on R&D too. Let's look. Ooh, yeah. 50%. Okay, let's look. And I'm more so interested in the specifics, even though they don't really share much. Quarterly commercial highlights. So, cloud revenue growth. It is crazy how much they are actually like continuing to grow grow Azure like a lot. Commercial bookings increase, commercial remains performing. Okay. Microsoft cloud revenue is up 20%. It's just like it's Microsoft Cloud includes Microsoft 365 Commercial, Azure, and other cloud services. The commercial portion of LinkedIn and Dynamics 365. Like, really? Return to shareholders: $9.7 billion to shareholders, with $6.2 billion in dividends and $3.5 billion in share repurchases. Microsoft pays like no dividend. Their dividend's like it's like 0.5%. .74%. Operating expenses were up 2%, driven by investments in cloud and engineering. Other income, driven by loss from OpenAI. So, other income and expenses was $623 million, so in the negative. Driven by our share of the loss from OpenAI, which is accounted for under the equity method, partially offset by net gains on derivatives and investment. $600 million, though? Is that quarter? If that's per quarter, that's a lot. They're dishing out like $4 billion a year, pretty much. Effective tax rate's 18%. Holy. I feel like that's higher than normal. Capital expenditures, including assets acquired under finance leases, were $21.4 billion to support demand in our cloud and AI offerings. Of our cloud and AI capital expenditures, roughly half was for long-lived assets. Cash paid for property and equipment. Cash flow from operations was $37 billion, up 16% year over year. Driven by strong cloud billings and collections. partially offset by higher tax payments. Free cash flow is $20 billion, down 3% year over year, reflecting higher capital expenditures to support our cloud and AI offerings. Windows OEM and devices revenue increased 3%. Xbox content and service revenue increased 9%. Or increased 8%. The last earnings, I think it was down. Search and news advertising revenue, excluding traffic acquisition cost, increased 21%. Wow. Microsoft 365, okay. I wanted them to talk about like Copilot or some shit. LinkedIn revenue increased 7%. Okay. Productivity and business processes. Overview. Okay, so we already saw this. Subscribers though. Microsoft 365's consumer subscribers 80 million, or no, they have 87 million. Microsoft consumer products and cloud services grew 10%. Continued mix shift to Microsoft 365 Basic. LinkedIn revenue's up 7%. LinkedIn's been like it's been kind of like a up and coming for kind of like as like a creator, like an influencer type. It's a good market to tap if that's who you're going for. Intelligent cloud. Is that like AI stuff? Is this just Azure? But like 33%? Like, it's so much. Server products grew. All right, personal computing, Windows OEM and devices, 3%. Dang. Yeah, 2% growth. Right. Yeah, it's look at this though. Xbox content and service revenue growth. They're consistently growing like 60%, and then it's just like 2%, 8%. They cut. I think they like. I don't know what happened. I can't remember at the time, like when something happened around this time, but I think that they just stopped marketing shit. But we're gonna look at we'll look at some Xbox news later, or maybe after this. Search, news, and advertising is continuing to grow. Revenue grew 6%, driven by search and news advertising. Gaming revenue grew 5%. Xbox content and service revenue grew 8%, driven by growth in Xbox Game Pass, Call of Duty, and Minecraft. Xbox hardware revenue declined 6%. Search and news advertising revenue, excluding traffic acquisitions cost, grew 21%. Okay. All right. Okay, let's read let's hear the transcript. Company continues to see accelerating demand for cloud migration strongly. Can we like ask questions about this transcript? Microsoft's cloud revenue surpassed $40 billion. AI annual run rate hit $13 billion, both driving double-digit growth. I'm perplexed. I want to ask questions about it. Okay. Microsoft's counter data center slowdown rumors amid global expansion. I guess I want to know about AI data center stuff. Analysts suggest Microsoft may have overestimated the near-term demand of AI infrastructure, leading to an oversupply position after aggressively capacity. Yeah, we've read about that. Changes in the relationship with OpenAI, including OpenAI's new capacity initiatives, have influenced Microsoft's infrastructure strategy, particularly regarding high-performance AI workloads. Insists that while it may strategically pace or adjust infrastructure in some areas, it will continue to grow strongly in all regions to meet current and future customer demand. All right. Let's look at Meta. Advertising revenue by geography. US. It's down a lot, actually. But it looks like Q1 may, like, historically just be a down. I imagine because it's after the holiday season. So a lot of spending is down, and in turn advertising is. Revenue by user. Yeah, I want to look at Reality Labs because they still are burning money. Family of apps revenue. Reality Labs revenue. Yeah, they lost. Just 4.2 billion? Crazy. Expenses as a percent of revenue. R&D is so much. But that's honestly, that's how it should be. Like, you know, they're trying to fucking make some new product. I'm trying to stay stagnant. So, I don't know. Effective tax rate 9%, bro. Microsoft was an 18. Bro, they're paying they're paying less taxes than most Americans. Meanwhile, Trump wants to cut this even more. Net income, diluted earnings per share, capital expenditures. Holy shit, bro. Look at this 2024. But it's going to be AI data center spend. They're building a fucking across the world undersea cable. Like they're doing shit. Family daily active people. Daily active person is registered and logged in user of Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and our website. Collectively, our family of products. Oh, I see. I feel like I had the same revelation. How do they grow every single quarter? When will they stop growing, I guess is the point. Like there's like people are like dying faster than being born right now, right? Like I was like, as like young, people get on social media, like young people, they're gonna get it, but then obviously people who are old are gonna die. Are they counting those dead people? We must seek to attribute multiple user accounts across products of individual people. Complex techniques, algorithms, and machine learning models that seek to estimate. To me, that just seems like they could just fucking game the system. Family average revenue per person. $12. Average revenue per person. So they make $12 per person per quarter on average. Like I just, it's interesting just nailing it down to how much they make per person. But $12, they make $12. This is how much arguably if you wanted to pay to use Instagram, this is like how much it would cost. In other words, per quarter. It would cost you like $3 per month, which is about, that's about what you would make like for advertising, like ads. That's it's like, you know, kind of the I don't know if like anyone like goes to Patreon or they want to support someone and like they might have like a like ad, like pay for the ads type of tier where it's like $2 or $3 because that's usually what you make per person, like around on average, depending per month from advertising on like YouTube and stuff, or just like a website. Ad impressions delivered year-over-year percentage change. Really no change. If anything, it's going down. That's interesting, actually. So I wonder if people are seeing less ads. Ad impressions, growth by user geographies, geographically proportioned based on our estimations of the geographic location of our users when ad impressions delivered. Huh. Average price per ad year-over-year change. Ah, okay. So the price per ad has gone up, but they're showing less ads. That's interesting. Definitely from a user perspective, that's probably better. That could also mean that Meta is maybe making it more efficient for advertisers to connect with people, and so you could show the people less ads and get more conversion. All right, Meta did good. Continue. Line go up to the right. I know we're kind of speeding through these, but we'll find like a video or something. All right. Robinhood always has good in earnings presentations. Like, I just like their design. All right, Q1 business results highlights. So we actually looked at Robinhood earlier this year. Last time we looked at earnings, we looked at Robinhood, and they were notably adding betting markets. They were betting to the app. That was kind of at the time the talk. I get literally the ads for Robinhood Gold like on YouTube, like every other ad. Q1 2025 business results highlights. Funded customers. Oh, they got a huge increase. Oh, never mind. I thought this was 28. $7% year over year is pretty good, though. I will say it's pretty good. Robinhood Gold subscribers, 3.19 million. They increased this a lot, actually. So LTM, long term. I don't know what LTM stands for. Oops. Last 12 months. Dang, bro, they actually get a shit ton from. Oh, these are. Oh. I was reading this down here, and I thought it's connected to this up here. Jesus. They've grown to 1.5 million. It is a pretty good offering. Literally a 4.5% interest rate on savings accounts is actually pretty good. That's even treasury bills right now. I'm getting like 4.3 on some, but like my savings account is 4%. But it's even above like what the like bonds are offering. Now, even the $5 a month though, paying $5 a month just for that wouldn't be worth it, unless depending on how much money you're putting in. But yeah, I guess that's just like a good, that even that alone is just a good selling point. What is adoption rate? Defined as end of period Robinhood subscribers divided by end of period funded customers. Okay, yeah. So it's like their conversion of existing customers to gold, it seems like. But 12.4% is good. I wonder what number they're like kind of going for. I mean, besides 100. Total platform assets. $221 billion. Bro, they had a huge bump these last 2 quarters. Like, net deposits. Is, I mean, it's going up, but the growth rate. Well, the prior period total platform assets refer to definitions of appendix. All right, total net revenue. 50% year over year. 50% year over year is crazy, but they're down down 9% from last quarter. Ooh, EBITDA's down too. Dang. Looks like they got some like money back or something. Okay, here's the product velocity remains robust in Q1. 29 Robinhood Legend indicators added in Q1. This is January 2025. 5 US crypto assets added. Index options available to all customers. 9 EU crypto assets added. Index option available to Robinhood Legend. What is Robinhood Legend? Is that like Pro? Option trading available in UK. Crypto available on Robinhood Legend. Futures available to all customers. Robinhood closes acquisition of Trade PMR. Robinhood launches Predictions Market Hub. Oh yeah, the Predictions Market. Comparison charts added to Robinhood Legend. Introducing Robinhood Strategies. Robinhood Cortex. I don't know what that is. Robinhood Banking expected fall 2025. Wow. Robinhood Banking, that's interesting. I think that's probably the play, though. It just sucks because I just don't trust Robinhood after their whole previous shenanigans and fiasco, like Wall Street Bet fiasco. I just don't trust them. They lost my trust. Global financial ecosystem. Funded customer increased by 1.9 million year over year. Total platform assets increased 7% year over year to 221 billion. Equities, options and futures, which is it's like nothing. Cryptocurrency, net cash, RIA. What is RIA assets? Registered Investment Advisor. That's new, looks like. Robinhood retirement accounts under. Oh, these are retirement accounts. Oh shit, okay. accounts under what is AUC? Under current, under cash. They have retirement accounts. I actually didn't know that. So in 1 year, they've 2 times that. 3 years, they've 3x'd. Huh. Can you add value to Robinhood Gold? Q1 2025, Robinhood Gold subscribers represent over 12% of funded customers. 12% honestly seems kind of low though, but yeah. Robinhood Gold subscribers receive meaningful value for $5 per month. 4% APY on uninvested cash. Oh, they changed that. I thought it was 4.5% on like savings accounts. 4% then I guess is just like is that even competitive? I guess it kind of is. I get 4%, I guess so. But 2.5 million FDIC insured. This is kind of in the like neobank fintechs area. This is kind of standard. 3% IRA match is crazy. Lower index option contract fees, lower future commissions, first $1,000 margin free. Enhanced market data, professional research, 3% cash back on all categories. Oh, a gold card. You have a credit card? Yeah, and 3% cash back just in general is actually insane too. Even 2% is like pretty standard. Robinhood Strategies, management fees capped at $250 per year. Robinhood Cortex, AI investment tools including Stock Digest and Trade Builder. Oh, okay, so this is coming soon. And then banking, private banking experience with checking and savings, digital wealth app, and additional perks. It is appealing, very appealing to have everything under one umbrella. Like you could have investment, you could have savings, you could have retirement, you could have research, stock research, you could have wealth management, but you could have crypto, like all this stuff, like that is appealing. I don't know if I would switch banks, but I might go back to Robinhood. Like I need to like do research into like to get my trust back though, I guess. But I don't know. Kind of happy with what my setup. Net deposits are a record $18 billion. Average cumulative net deposits tend to grow over time across our funded customer cohorts. And recent cohorts' initial net deposits are larger. Interesting. Like, this is such an interesting, like, data viz. Cool. So I guess more people are now coming to Robinhood with more money. Everyone trading volume increased double digits year over year as we continue to gain market share. Total net revenue up Q1 50%. Transaction-based revenue were up 77% year over year. Diluted share count down 5%. We're up. Excuse me. We're updating our 2025 outlook for adjusted operating expenses in SBC to include the acquisition of Trade PMR in Q1. Oh, interesting. Rule of 40 results demonstrate the power of business model. Year-over-year change in total net revenue plus adjusted EBITDA margin in a given period. Rule of 40, I've never heard of that. Over $4.5 billion in corporate cash, investments, and stablecoin, we are well positioned to continue deploying capital. Our balance sheet remains strong with over $4.5 billion of corporate cash, investments, and stablecoin. It's interesting they held like stablecoins today, as well as $3.7 billion in available lines of credit. See, this is good. This is what I need to build trust, because fucking I think that's what happened before, is like they had a bit of a bank run and they're going to run out of money, so they had to borrow a bunch of money after they like halted trading and like all that drama. Run our business while investing in future growth. We will continue to look to drive growth in shareholder values by allocating capital across organic growth, mergers and acquisitions, shareholder returns. We returned $322 million to shareholders by repurchasing approximately 7 million of our shares in Q1. We increased our share repurchase program from 1 billion to 1.5 billion. Interesting. All right. All right, Robinhood's doing good, I guess. Let's see what analysts think. Product innovation remains strong. Robinhood Gold subscribers nearly doubled. Business diversification continues in 9 businesses. I hate that it changes live like this, bro. Stop. And they actually made money. Like, why? Oh, I see. It was still missed, I guess. Interesting. Okay, let's look at Roblox. Bro, they need a fucking hire graphic designer. Come on. Okay, so Roblox is up 2%. Year to date, they're up 16%, which is actually very surprising. They peaked in COVID. No, they peaked February this year. I see. Yeah, they peaked in COVID. All right. We actually covered earlier a story about how Roblox is putting more advertising in games and they're making it more like integrated. So, okay. Revenue was up 29% year over year, about $1 billion. Up 30% year over year on a okay. Net loss attributed to common stockholders. Adjusted EBITDA was 58 million, which excluded adjustments for increase in deferred revenue. Average daily active users were 97.8 million, up 26% year over year. Average monthly unique players were 20 million, up 9%, 29%. Average booking per monthly. Dang, bro, they're making $20 per month per user. Meanwhile, Facebook was making like $3. They're making like $12 a quarter. Bro, like kids are fucking buying those Robux. Hours engaged were up 30%. Cash and cash equivalents, short-term investments. At Q1 2025, all of our results were above the guidance we provided on our Q4 2024 earnings call as we continue to deliver on several key growth initiatives, in addition to our focus on raw performance and quality investments in virtual economy and search and discovery are driving growth in platform monetization, booking, and creator earnings. During the quarter, Roblox creators earned a record $281.6 million for the past 12 months, and more than 100 Roblox developers earned over $1 million. Holy shit, bro. Over 100 people? Roblox has minted millionaires. As a whole, the community is on pace to exceed $1 billion of earning for the full year. Dang. We accelerated top line growth in Q1 2025 with revenues growing 29% year over year and booking growing 31% year over year. Top line growth was strong in all regions. We continue to deliver high rates of improvement in margins as a result of both strong top line growth and operating efficiencies, primarily related to the cost of headcount, infrastructure, and trust and safety. Cash flow from operations, free cash flow reached record levels, grew year over year at high rates, exceeding our prior guidance. Why is it down then? So much. Oh no, it's up. It is up. Okay, I don't know why I thought it was down. Robinhood was down. Robinhood shares dipped after recent insider selling, but analyst I see. Analyst consensus remained moderately bullish with $53 price target. It's not that high. 12 analysts rated a buy, while 6 recommend holding. Company's impressive growth and growth. When's Cloudflare got earnings? Oh, whoops. May 8th. Okay, yeah, next week. What about Reddit? Check when's Reddit earnings. Ooh, Reddit's up 3%. Oh, there's today. Yep, market close. All right, we'll see. Yep, this is what we want to continue to see. Yeah, bro, but fuck. Gotta make money. All right. Earnings will continue. We got Apple. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Apple. Yeah, I don't know. Do we have any more commentary? This is actually, I do recommend watching this.
That you want. Now,
this is a we can't see. Zuckerberg, Dorkesh Patel interview with Zuckerberg. You gotta filter through the Zuckerberg corporate tech speak and like question dodging a bit, but he does bring up some good points. One thing that I think, and it's about mainly about AI and like Llama, like meta strategy with AI, but one thing that I think is interesting is that in I've been thinking the question, I'm glad Dorkesh asked it, although it was kind of a bullshit answer, where it's like, if like AGI is like inevitable, like what are we even doing right now? You know, it's like, if once we get AGI, things will just take over. It'll just take over everything. Like, what's even the point of everyone racing to it for it? But Zuck says, and he makes a good point, is like, there's a lot of room in like not like OpenAI isn't gonna own every single corner of the AI space. He's like, he thinks as they mature that they'll be more siloed in like, for example, he's like OpenAI or Anthropic's focusing more on like coding. Maybe Llama's focusing more on like social interactions. OpenAI might be focusing more on like agentic stuff. It's like they're all kind of like, and we are kind of seeing that already. And I think I do agree with that, because it is weird just to think about a single company just owning everything in the AI space. And I just don't think that is what's going to happen. Also, especially considering that it's all companies are increasing, they're spending a shit ton of money, and they're also all racing. We were all the so-called new one-man AI created companies that we're supposed to get rich off of. Yeah. Yeah, still coming, I guess. So, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I recommend a listen. If you just gotta filter past some of his bullshit. And I'm gonna listen to this Tim Sweeney. I started this right here. There's like so many podcast things to watch right now. It's like I don't have enough time because they're all like hours long. I'm even 2xing it. But I think these single man AI companies will come as like agents get figured out more. I think we're still like pretty early in the agent space. It's mainly just like for gathering information and getting information. It's still early days for like full agentic automation. Not to say you can't, but yeah, I don't know. Okay, that's all I got planned for today. Just pretty much just covered the Tim Sweeney doing Apple and earnings. No stream tomorrow. Is Friday. No stream tomorrow likely, but we will be back Monday 9 a.m. We'll cover earnings that we didn't cover today, Monday, likely Apple, MicroStrategy, because I want to see if they're making money from Bitcoin, Reddit. There's a few. Yeah, appreciate everyone hanging out and tuning in. More news Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone hanging out. Subscribe, follow. Be back 9 a.m. Pacific. Peace.